Welcome to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. Thanks for all the likes and comments on the last video. If you would like to support this channel, please hit the like button and consider subscribing if you enjoy the content. And now let's start with the first story. It's called Call the City. This happened a couple of months ago in our neighborhood. There's a pretty rundown house with some inconsiderate neighbors. They have a large travel trailer that is too big for the driveway and sticks out 1 foot into the sidewalk when it's parked. It's not an issue, as there's plenty of room to rock around. But the kicker is they always park one of their cars halfway in the driveway, so it completely blocks the sidewalk. They live in a corner house, so it's dangerous for a family to walk in the street around a blind corner because the sidewalk is inaccessible. Multiple neighbors, including myself, have asked them multiple times to pull their car into the driveway or park it on the street to leave the sidewalk accessible. Well, apparently they got into a shouting match with one of the other neighbors over it, with the offending neighbor telling the other neighbor if they don't like it, call the city. The other neighbor did just that. The city came out and wrote a ticket for the SUV blocking the sidewalk. They also wrote them up for the trailer that was too big to fit in the driveway, forcing them to store it in a rental space for $350 per month. The next story is called Fired Mid-Shift. About 15 years ago, when I was about 20, I got a job at a new Panera opening in my town. I worked there for exactly 5 days. After 2 days of working the salad line and making sandwiches, which was honestly fun, I was told I was being moved to the kitchen. I didn't mind, because I love to cook and bake, so I was excited. For about 1 whole minute. When I showed up on my 3rd day, I get walked to the kitchen. I am so stoked. I stop at the chef line, but the manager keeps walking. I stop at the baker's line, but the manager keeps walking. He stops in front of the dishwasher. He says I'm gonna be washing dishes for a couple of days, because they hadn't hired one yet. Or he quit instantly. I give it my do best attitude for 2.5 days. It's a big pill to swallow. I suddenly realized the back end of a restaurant is much harder than I ever thought. And I've worked in the back prior, just not at this level before. I have always worked counters, even maintenance, but never that hard. And I started to fail because I was feeling dejected and being talked down to. Come my 3rd day on dishes and the last day at Panera. I show up on time, and it was a pretty busy night, so there was lots to get to. I tried so hard, but by then we are open, so freshly dirty plate tops are coming back in groves. Starts piling up on the counter, then on the floor. Halfway through my shift, my lunch is late. Before I go to lunch, they pull me into the office and tell me they are letting me go. Like this. We are so sorry to say, but we have to let you go. You are just not keeping up. But would you please stay and finish your shift first? I was floored, but I did it. Just not with my do best attitude. I proceed to wash 1 pan at a time in the industrial washer we have. More tubs are piling up, my coworkers asking what's going on. I explain and they understand and support thankfully. Even more tubs pile up, now on the floor, before I even finish the pans. Come the end of my shift, I knew my managers were gonna have to stay and wash the dishes. But they were courteous enough and told me that, as a parting gift and thanks for trying, I could take home whatever I wanted from the store. So I did. Over $120 I think in fresh bread and pastries of all delicious varieties. I gave most of it away. Heard from a friend a year later they were mad about that for a while, but couldn't do anything, which got them more upset. It wasn't my finest hour, but I don't regret it one bit. Moral of the story, don't fire your employees mid-shift, but ask them to stay and expect any kind of quality. The 3rd story is called Deal With It. This was around 2013 to 14. I used to work at a popular retailer that sold video games, toys, etc. When I worked there, we had 2 demo console displays to advertise the latest gaming consoles. Each display had a few demos provided that were always updated to the newer releases the company wanted to advertise. Our store was in a large retail outdoor mall. It was common for parents to come in and direct their kids to the displays so they could shop for themselves and or kid in peace without making sure they weren't making a mess or fuss. This normally wasn't a problem. Even sometimes teenagers would come in just to play a few rounds on the displays and leave. As long as they weren't disruptive, no one really cared. These displays were at the very front of the store next to the door. One day a parent comes in with her kid and starts to set him up at one of our gaming displays. Pretty normal. Then they just walk out after the kid is all set. Unless it's the holidays or a special event day, it's normally just 2 people on shift. My assistant manager, seeing this, bolted to the door to get the mom to take her child. As he's yelling out the door she can't just leave her kid here, she yells back, "I'm just going to browse the bookstore, just deal with him until I'm back." "Sure ma'am, we'll deal with it alright." My assistant store manager comes back in and tells me to call the emergency police line, explaining a parent abandoned their child at our store. Our local police department was only a few blocks away, so an officer showed up quickly. He was very pleasant, and to help make sure the kid wasn't scared, hyped him up about taking a ride in the police car to wait for his mom. The kid got to ride in the front seat and even got to see the lights and sirens. Officer told us he'd call the parent and we were good to go. About 30 minutes later, the mom came back. She was livid. She swung the door open, screaming about how dare we call the cops and not watch her son like we said we would. My assistant store manager reminded her we told her we could not watch her kid and that she did indeed tell us to just deal with it. So we did. The last story is called Gluten-Free Trend. This happened a few years ago. I cook or wait tables depending on how long it takes me to get fed up with one or the other and I need a change. We always have to be very conscious of allergies in food service as it can be life or death for some people. Enter the gluten-free trend crowd. While I recognize some people have a legit allergy, there are so many that are trying to be trendy. The big difference is that a person with a true allergy has an already general idea of what they can and cannot have. They will start the whole process off before ordering by letting you know what said allergy is, which we appreciate as it saves time. No big deal. The trendy gluten-free peeps need to tell you 3 times throughout their order. And they always end up backtracking after they find out that basically everything they desire to order either contains gluten or is potentially cross-contaminated. I was waiting this time around and I started getting tired of hearing about it. We had a particular, almost daily regular who would tell us every time about her gluten intolerance, tell all the people sitting near her about it, and then proceed to order items that had gluten. I was having a bad day. She comes in. Does her normal spiel about being allergic to gluten. I say yup. Wasn't sufficient enough attention for her. She emphasizes what it does to her delicate system because she's allergic. She orders the usual. Food cooked and prepared in the fryers, which have had gluten-ridden food fried in them all day. I'm thoroughly annoyed now having to listen to her graphic details about her gut and the effects from gluten. I, as usual, inform her the fryers are cooked in with items containing gluten. She says the normal, "Oh, that's fine." I have an evil idea pop into my head. "Ma'am, you just said you are allergic to gluten. I cannot in good conscience put this restaurant or my job at risk by serving you food that you will have an allergic reaction to. I'm sorry, but you are going to have to pick another item." She is shocked. Starts backtracking. I stand firm. "No, I'm sorry, but I just can't do it. If you get sick from the food because I was careless about your allergy, then I could lose my job. These are the items you can choose from today." She calls my manager over. Manager backs me up after hearing the story. Manager was tired of her too. Lady indignantly orders one of the items I listed to save face. Obviously no tip, but I don't care, it was worth it. Still came back 2 days later, miraculously cured of her gluten allergy. And with that, we end today's video. Let me know what you think about the stories. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the stories and today's video? I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like what I do and want to support me, please subscribe and hit the like button. I hope you have a great day. Stay safe. Bye bye.